Yes, we are. All right. So, Friday I ended up seeing Pacific Rim. Chris, you just saw it today, right?
About 3 hours ago.
3 hours ago? Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
four,
I forgot.
something around that time. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm mixed about this movie versus everybody else who just fucking who's fangasming over it. To be honest, I'm mixed.
Uh, the quickest and most unspoiler way to say it is this is a very silly, stupid anime. Essentially,
Oh yeah.
it's not a movie to go into expecting a lot of thought, and it's just something you go in to see a lot of action in it. And
I
you know
don't
what?
even.
Honestly,
There's not even that much action in it either.
you know what this movie is? This movie is Sharknado with a budget.
Yeah.
It's really stupid, it's really silly, and if you're in the right mindset where you enjoy the fact that it's kind of cheesy and schmaltzy all over the place, then you enjoy it.
When we get to the spoiler half of this, remind me of the Sharknado connection, and I'll even make that connection deeper.
Yeah.
Because
It,
they pull off some of the same shit.
yeah, oh there's like moments that are actually identical
Yep.
between the two movies.
Yep. I hope you're
Um
thinking of the same part I am too.
probably, yeah. Um
but
it is Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna go down the description of this movie, but basically this movie is about a dimensional rift opens up in the Pacific Ocean between the world of Earth and this alien foreign dimension, and over the next, I think it was what, 20 years.
I think it's 7 years. 7 or 12, because they mentioned being in
Oh,
year
they go.
7 of the Kaiju War.
Yeah, they did 2020. Then they do like 5 years later or something like that because
That's
after.
not true. I know they mentioned it's being in the middle of the Kaiju War,
Hmm.
and that I remember when we re-meet Raleigh, he mentioned it's been 5 years since he's piloted. So I can't. I'm trying to remember
It's
because
between.
either 7 or about 12. It's somewhere
Yeah,
in
it's either
that
7 or 12
range.
years. I'm gonna go with 12 because I think it's 2020 is where Raleigh is actually doing his piloting, and then 5 years after that is when he rejoins.
Probably somewhere around those
So
lines.
I think it's about 12 years in. But basically, to combat the kaiju, we created the Jaegers, which are basically giant robots of awesome killy fighties.
Yeah.
And basically, the whole story is, you know, them trying to combat these aliens,
And
dimensional beings, whatever the hell you
there's
want to call them.
yeah, and there's different teams. The whole way the Jaeger works is that it has pilots,
Hmm.
but one pilot wouldn't be enough. It's too much of a strain on the neural system because they mimic the user's movement. So two pilots basically mind merge with one another,
Yep.
and that's why a lot of the teams that you'll see are teams of brothers, teams of family, or teams of husband and wife sort of deal.
Because they're more compatible with each other.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it all comes down to how in sync you are. The more in sync you are with your pilot, the more effective your robot is, and the better fighting force you are.
which I actually like that gimmick that
It
they
wasn't a
that they
bad
did.
gimmick at all. No, it was. It was only kind of there though. Like here's one of the things. This isn't getting too much into spoilers. I guess maybe it will. So maybe I'll hold off on that for a little bit. So, but no, I do like the gimmick for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any problems with it. It didn't, to me, it didn't feel forced
No, no, it
that
doesn't.
it had to do it. I thought there were other things that happened in this movie that felt way too forced. But
Well,
this thing,
part of
I was passing on. I was like, all right, this is okay.
I
Even though it's
feel
only 7 years ahead of our current time schedule, I don't think that's possible. But okay.
I feel most of the stuff that comes off as forced is, I think, by and large, intentional. I really do
I
think they were
don't
trying
know.
to get. There's some of it I think is unintentionally funny, but there's some of it that's
To
just so
me,
stupid.
they took it. To me, they took this movie very seriously. To me, it came off it was trying to take itself seriously, but yet still make fun of itself. And I don't think this movie did it that well
I I think
because it was there was a lot of groaning moments for me in this movie, to where
there
I'm.
are a lot of those. I also had quite a few like so ridiculously stupid. It's like I had actually had a laugh out loud moment in the movie. that we can get into a little bit later. But I feel like a lot of it's so like it just you have to be self-aware when you're writing these
Hmm.
lines. Like Guillermo del Toro is the director. I can't think of too many things of his off the top of my head. But I mean, I haven't known him before to have the reputation of being a really bad director.
No, but every once in a while, good directors put out a stinker.
They put out a stinker, but I think this is intentionally a stinker because of it being a love letter to
Well,
kaiju movies and
it's
having so many connections to anime as it is. I know one thing I do know about Guillermo del Toro is he reads manga.
mhm.
I have to imagine that translation also probably applies if he watches anime. So I think that some of the things in here are probably just tropes he's picked up that he's just applied to the movie. Like there's points where characters will say like really stupid lines, and like you just sit there and like that
yeah.
line is
There's
awful, but you're like,
I don't think going to this is going to spoiler, but there's this one line where they use it's "Let's do this together,"
yes,
and I audibly out loud fucking with loud enough
it's
that
like
everybody in the theater can hear me. I groaned at that.
it's like Power Rangers, you
Yeah,
know,
it
like
was.
that's that's part of the movie. I think part of the mystique wrapped around it, and that's why a lot of people are kind of digging it, is because it's so cheesy. Like it
It
has a
is.
lot of those moments where you're just like, oof. In another movie, this would be a downer, but I feel like this movie is
I
aware of
thought it
the.
was a downer even in this movie. Like, I'm so finicky when it came to this movie. Like, I hated where they said, let's do this together. And I love the parts where they basically said the power they were using before using every power.
Rocket punch.
Yeah, I fucking ate that shit up. But when it
It's
came to the really silly, stupid, shit, I just couldn't do it,
Here's one thing I'll absolutely agree on. This movie, if it was intention to be so stupid it's good, has difficulty crossing the border or balancing on the line between that and just being so stupid it's stupid.
Hmm.
Because the first act of this movie was so stupid it's stupid to me. I couldn't stand it. The costumes just looked fucking ridiculous. All of the acting was just all over the place, bad.
I didn't like any of the acting throughout this whole movie.
Yeah,
I literally thought the little girl who plays there are flashbacks about the
Mako.
Mako. I thought the little girl played Mako better than the actual actress who plays her throughout the rest of the movie plays her.
I'm just shocked they managed to find a little girl with as obnoxious a voice as the actual Mako has.
Yes.
Because every character in this movie has something that's really weird with them. Like the main character, Raleigh, is played by Charlie Hunnam, but I'm 90% sure it's actually played by Zach Braff, and they just didn't want to pay him, so they used a different name. Because I swear, you put black hair on this guy, he's Zach Braff. And I could not look at certain scenes in this movie and not be like, why is JD here?
Where's Turk?
Idris Elba's in the movie, or as I like to call him, Stringer Bell, because he only is going to have ever one role for me. And Stringer Bell in this movie, not his finest role by any
No.
stretch. I think a lot of it is a script. He's put into the role of like the strict
He
military. Like,
tries.
Johnson, you've saved the day, but you disobeyed orders to do it.
He
And I
tries.
don't take that insubordination. It's like he has to be so angry. Like his character is the most irrational douchebag.
Fuck
It's
yeah,
like,
he is.
shitty and mean. And
Half the stuff he
Lana,
does
like,
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're just like, why are you being this shitty and mean? I don't understand it. Like he just gets angry and yells at a lot of things.
He's like the chief in any police movie you've ever seen.
Exactly. He's the guy who's just like, I can't handle these loose cannon cops.
Yeah.
Except the loose cannons in this movie are
Are-
people who are like, oh, I'm gonna save this ship full of people. He's
Yeah.
just like, oh, I told you not to danger the mission.
That's the Aussies, not the fucking other guy.
He's just it's very strange in that way. He plays Stacker Pentecost as his character's
Yeah.
name.
I love these names, by the way. I didn't know half of their names when I left the movie, but going back through IMDb, I'm just like, these were their names?
There was a Yancey
Dr.
back
Newton Geyser or Gisler?
Gizesler. Oh, I had to get to him.
God.
Dr. Newton's played by Charlie Day.
I love Charlie Day.
I do not like Charlie Day.
I do.
I can tolerate him in very small amounts, but I hated him in this
He
movie.
was amazing in Horrible Bosses.
He's okay. I like him, and it's just a matter that his voice gets on my nerves very quickly.
Yeah, it can.
So if I have to listen to him for a very prolonged amount of time, it just sounds like it gets higher and higher. I imagine the same way I sound to a lot of people. Just like,
But
oh my god.
when it comes to this movie,
Puberty.
Charlie Day plays the same character he was in in Horrible Bosses,
Well, he
except
plays
he's a
the
scientist.
same character in everything.
Yeah, he
like,
does. He's
super
the
neurotic,
hyperactive.
hyperactive, kind of cowardice, over enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the same guy in everything. Not bad. I think if you like Charlie Day and anything else, you'll like him.
I didn't like him here.
I was not a fan of him here. Main female lead is played by Rinko Kukichi, Mako, and it's so weird because I had to listen to an interview of her to be certain, and it's her actual voice. She does not talk, I believe, with any put-on accent. And it's so weird because this is the only, like, the most recent event I could think of where I'm like, wow, stereotypes really do exist. Because she sounds like a Family Guy impersonator doing an Asian woman's voice. Like, oh no, Rory, we have to hurry up and save the Pacific Rim. Like, it's so, like, the accent is so...
Well, she speaks so softly sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's typical for, Japanese and Chinese culture that women are very soft-spoken. But for a film, you kind of don't want to do that, because there are some things where you're just like, what did she say? Damn it. Because it better not have been important, because I didn't hear a damn thing she said.
Like, oh, stuck a Pentecost is dying. It's just every time I heard her voice, I was just like, wow, that is... I thought she was putting on a fake accent. I was waiting to see her on, like, David Letterman. She's just like, yes, I thought Pacific Rim was a particularly...
Just comes out this very distinguished British accent.
She just put on, like, a super racist accent for the movie. But I'm like, no, it's how she actually talks.
Sorry.
Her voice can get a little grating throughout the movie as well, but...
I just wasn't a fan of any I don't know many of these actors outside of the guy who plays Herc. I didn't know many of these actors.
There's two actors
and Charlie Day.
Okay, there's Charlie Day. There's also Ron Perlman who's in this.
Yeah, I got Ron Perlman, but I don't give him.
As Hannibal Chow. Hannibal Chow was the one point in the movie where I was like, this is far too on the nose, Guillermo del Toro. This is too self-aware of yourself being stupid.
Have you seen Hellboy, The Golden Army?
Or no, I've seen the first Hellboy. I haven't seen much of the second one.
Okay, the way he was dressed and the way he looked reminded me of that movie. With those golden boots or whatever, silver boots that he wore.
It was like classy dress shoes, but he had like gold plating on them.
Those were awesome. I'd like to have those.
And he had like big, weird kind of robot monocle fucking looking things over his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he wore like a big, loud red suit, and he's just so unnecessary to the movie.
Oh fuck yeah, he was.
He has like his
well, we needed him for the B plot, you know?
Yeah, they
the B or C or D plot that they had going on in this movie. There were so fucking many.
Yeah, they had to have him there in some aspect. But he's very much a character I was not a fan of. But I think at this point we probably might want to hold off on talking too much further, because I think we're going to start getting into spoilers at this point.
But one thing I do want to say, I think this movie would have done a lot better if they would have cut out like 20, 30 minutes of this movie.
That's strange, because I actually think this movie could have done being longer.
I don't think so. To me,
I feel like
they stayed too long on plots the problem I think
managed time then, because I feel like one of my biggest problems is that the movie starts off extremely slow. I feel like we should have gotten one full kaiju fight before we got to the kaiju fight we did start the movie with.
I still liked how this opened up. I actually liked the first 10 minutes because it kind of, other than that it blue-balled me, because it's basically like, oh, we're going to see the awesome scene, and then a lot of talky bits after. but I liked the opening scene. I liked I liked the kaiju fights, but after that, other than that, I wasn't a fan. I felt a lot of the B plots were kind of shoehorned in. A lot of things happened for no reason. A lot of the decisions that were made don't make sense. I just I don't understand why some things happen in this movie. They don't make any sense at all, and you'll understand why if you stick around for the spoiler part. But right now, I really can't get into it without going through major spoilers.
So, if you want to, do we give our gradients here, or do you want to wait till the
Yeah,
end?
I'd want to do it here for anybody who watches. If anybody wants to only watch this part for basically our recommendation. But yeah, I'd rather give it here than at the end.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this is a solid rent. If you have the sound system to make this thing actually awesome for you.
Yeah, sound is kind of a big aspect in
Yeah.
here. I would probably give it a B plus.
Okay, so you're probably going a little bit higher than you view it a little bit better than I did.
I definitely do. We'll get into it a little bit more, but
On a side note, this movie is tanking apparently.
it's not doing as well as they'd like. Fortunately, Grown Ups 2 is apparently getting a lot of money.
It's whooping its ass. I think the last I saw was like Grown Ups 2 hitting $34 million opening day or weekend or something like that, versus this thing is only like 14 or something.
And considering it looks like it was a very expensive movie with a fuck ton of advertising, this may end up being a bomb.
Yeah. Well, this movie was $247 million or something like that.
Good God, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Sharknado probably costs like 10 grand and a fucking like buffet table. What the fuck?
They gave the animators a box of Skittles or a bag of Skittles, and that's pretty much all they needed for that movie.
They just gave them some fucking gummy sharks and were like, have at it, man. Wow. $250? I mean, I guess that's what you get when you have them fucking doing like CGI Tokyo, but for fuck's
I think
sake,
it was 250 million.
250 is
Let me
ridiculous.
see. I just want to double check.
So let's say it cost 190 and made 90 million.
Okay, so it's increasing
Okay.
over time.
190 is not as bad. If it was 250, I'd be mortified. I'd be like, you guys spent almost $300 million on this movie?
Yeah,
Because you have to
Wikipedia.
imagine with advertising costs on top of that.
Yeah, Wikipedia's saying that's what View says in the chat room is correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just this movie's not that bad to be losing to.
I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I just think it's an unfortunate movie in that the people are going to enjoy it are not necessarily going to realize they should see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'd like to explain something really quick too. I went into this movie on 24 hours of no sleep, so I it's one of those things. Well, I'm gonna find out the spoiler when Chris talks about this movie some more. If my views were swayed on basically me being cranky when I came into this movie. I mean, because Chris, I've been pumped for this movie for the past fucking 8 months.
You were excited. I came into this movie completely like, it's a movie I'll watch this weekend. I can't wait for R.I.P.D. next weekend.
Oh, god damn that fucking movie, Chris. But, so, yeah, I'm probably going to give this movie another viewing. And I might give a follow-up just myself on what I actually, if anything changes. But right now, I'm going to go off of my first opinions on this movie.
Fair enough.
Ready to get into some spoilers, Chris?
Yes.
Let's spoil the shit out of this thing.
Okay. So, there is, I think, a point that is the highlight of the film, which is when we first see two monsters attack at once.
Yes.
I would say that's the best action scene in the movie. A little bit of a heads up, though.
It
is
gets a little
that
stupid.
it does, but it also awesome. But there are four mechs in this series, four Jaegers.
Yeah.
There's one piloted by our main characters, one piloted by a father and son Aussie team, one piloted by like I think it's a husband and wife or Russian
Russian
team,
team. Yep.
and then a bunch of a Chinese triplet team who has a big robot that has three arms.
I love the
Um,
designs of these fucking things, by the way. The
the
monsters and the fucking Jaegers look amazing.
the Russian and Chinese team are so anime, it's not even funny. Like
Yeah.
they literally come into the movie to do their one special thing and then
And then
die.
die.
That's it. Like it's so much. It's like in an anime when you see like a side villain come in, he's just like, I need to I shoot arrows out of my eyeballs or something like that, and he does it twice, and the hero's like, oh, I found a way to counter that. And like, that's it. That's basically these characters. So like, let us show you our thundercloud formation, which is just them spinning their buzzsaws. I really get what's so dangerous about that.
Well, I think that fight should have been longer before we had to bring in the gypsy.
I can't remember any fucking robot name. It's Gypsy something, Strike something. I think Crimson Tide is the Chinese one.
Crimson Typhoon, I think it was.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even get that right. And I don't even remember what the Russian one was.
It's something a take on Chernobyl or something like that, because that thing looks like a giant nuclear reactor. Oh god damn, fucking certain lines in this movie. We're analog! Shut up. They're all digital, we're analog.
But there's that big fight, and the fight moves into the city, and basically the gypsy robot takes out both monsters. And after it's taken out the first one, it finishes that fight in the port. It then comes into the fight the next monster, and it has by far the greatest moment in the movie to me. You just see the striker or the gypsy robot coming up on him, holding a tanker ship and using it as a samurai sword. It was so over the top stupid, I busted out laughing. It was completely that perfect level of so dumb it's awesome.
For you, I can see it. For me, it irritated the shit out, because when I saw that, I literally looked over to my friend and said, boats don't have that kind of structural integrity to do that.
It's not about the structural
I know
integrity.
it's not.
It's about the fact he's wielding a fucking tanker ship.
I know it's not, but here's the thing. When it comes to a movie, you're supposed to be able to suspend your disbelief, you know, if it's a good movie. And that scene just annoyed the fuck out of me. I mean, hold on. We've established he has a goddamn motherfucking sword attached to his arm, yet he still brings a boat to the fight. He didn't need the goddamn boat. He's got a goddamn sword.
But the boat's cooler.
I don't care. He has a fucking melee weapon. He doesn't need a boat bat.
This is what I mean when I say that the movie comes off like Sharktopus. There's just stuff that you're just like, there's no way this could work. But they're like, we're going to do it because it's going to look really cool on screen.
Yeah, there's your, thank you for reminding me, Sharktopus, or, not Sharktopus, Sharknado. There's a scene in Sharknado where a guy cuts a shark in half with a chainsaw.
Exactly.
In this movie, we got a kaiju being cut in half by a sword wielded by a Jaeger. Awesome scene in both movies.
That's the sort of thing. It's just a ludicrous, over-the-top thing that either hits a moment where you're either going to appreciate it because it's so silly and over-the-top that you're like, that's awesome, or you're just going to be like, that's stupid. And it really is going to go either one way or the other. It just comes down to how much you like things that you're like, that was really silly, but I don't care. It was amusing because it was bad, or it was awesome because it was, over the top.
I'm a large kaiju fan. I've seen and own every Godzilla movie, including the fucking U.S. made one, which that a fucking abomination. But I'd like to see Del Toro. Is that who did this one?
Yeah.
I'd like to see him do Godzilla. I think he can pull Godzilla off. Even though they're already making it, and I don't think he's attached to it at all.
I have no idea.
It's a shame, but there's just certain things in this movie that just annoy the shit out of me. There's this whole subplot of the guy played by Idris Elba's character.
Idris, you mean Idris Elba?
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris Elba is the person.
Yes, I know, but I'm trying to remember his character's name in this movie.
Just call him Stringer Bell because it's the only role he ever had.
Pentakill.
Pentecost.
Pentecost.
I think it's Pentecost, isn't it?
Pentecost.
Stacker Pentecost.
Yeah. Pentecost and Mako.
I mean, am I crazy in that I figured out what was happening between them in like the first 5 seconds of them being on screen with one another?
Well, yeah, it's not that hard to figure out what's going on, but the thing is that he's, the whole movie is basically you cannot pilot, and then it's you can pilot, and then it's like no, you cannot pilot anymore, and then he's like okay, now you can pilot because we've lost 5 pilots. Why? Why do we need a fucking whole subplot that's just mind-numbingly boring for me? To where all he's going to do is just go back on everything he says.
It doesn't put him in the best light as a character.
He's an idiot.
You don't really get much reason to like it. It's just a lot of things in his character just seem to be like sudden. Like, here's the thing. I look at this movie as though we're like a 12-episode anime series.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the way it feels structured. You kind of get your big climax episode in around episode 10, and you have to do your finale. Like if you spaced it out, this is a storyline that could easily fit something like that.
Yeah.
But because this is fit into a 2-hour movie, it's only about 2 hours 15 minutes or something like that.
2 hours 11 minutes.
Because it's that, sort of a time frame, they kind of have to put the plot points in there, but then have him get over it really quickly. Like, it's a big deal throughout the movie that he seems to have some, he's got radiation poisoning from when he was a pilot in a mech.
Because he was a solo pilot.
Well, he solo piloted once, I think.
No, the originals they solo piloted, but they didn't do it for very long because of the effects that it had on people.
Okay.
And he was one of the originals that are still alive that have solo piloted.
Okay. And shit, where does it go? Oh, he's got this medicine he has to keep taking for his poisoning. And then they reveal like, oh, well, the reason I have to take it is because I was a solo pilot, but I could never pilot again. And then 5 minutes later, he's like,
I'm gonna pilot again.
And you're like, you're just doing this because you need to die.
What annoys me is like, okay, we've established that, oh, that even annoys me. I just thought of something else that was stupid. The whole movie, he's like, we find Riley, and he's like, we set up candidates to be your pilot, to be your co-pilot, which are basically the 3 Asian guys, and one other dude, because we don't see actual contenders for it, because he fights people. Remember, he's like trying to find somebody who melds with him. Movement-wise, as far as fighting, and I don't think any of the people he fights are actual just random people that they have on a list. I think those are actually the other pilots.
No, it's maybe you coming off as a little bit racist, but I'm pretty sure there's 3 other characters who just have to be Asian as well, because the center is in Hong Kong.
They wore the same red jumpsuits.
They didn't really wear jumpsuits.
Yeah, they did. I could have swore they did. If not, oh well. Like I said, I went into this movie 24 hours tired. Okay. So, some details may have been lost upon me, but to me, they look the same. Because I know there was one white guy he fought at the beginning, and then an Asian guy, and then he fought Mako. But during that whole thing, we find out, that she's, I think even before that, we find out Mako was supposed to be his co-pilot. She told him.
Really creepy stalker fangirl. That's the way she comes off at first.
She does. She feels typical anime.
Yeah.
Like where she watches them through the peephole and stuff like that. But we find out that the character said, you're going to be his pilot, and then when they find him, he's like, you cannot be his pilot because of the things that happened, 20 years ago or something like that. And then she becomes his pilot.
The weirdest part is because they explain the whole reason they're doing like the combat is because the combat's not supposed to be "I'm gonna beat you." It's
Mm-mm.
supposed to be a dialogue. It's supposed to
Yep.
show how in sync these two people can be.
Yep.
And because she gets so in sync with him, they're like, "Oh, well, that must mean she's the best candidate." Idris Elba's like, "She will not be your candidate. You will meet your pilot today at 2." And then 2 comes around, and she walks into the room, and like, "Oh, I guess Idris Elba just made you the candidate after all." It's just one of those things, like,
I see. I don't understand why that's in the movie. If none of that had a point to it, at all.
Yeah, and
They could have.
her entire plot is wrapped up basically at the end. Like, they find that, I guess, when you meld your memories, you see everyone else's entire life basically.
Yeah, you
And that
live the
connection
memories of the other
remains
person.
constant while you're piloting a mech. So it's possible to have one person have a memory come up, and that will put you off sync with somebody else. And the whole thing is, you're not supposed to, quote unquote, chase the rabbit. You're not supposed to get lost in what is a memory.
Hmm.
She gets lost in the memory of where she was a survivor of a kaiju attack after her family was killed. And she got very close to being killed by a kaiju. The entire fight basically took place a block away from her. And she has this trauma. She's constantly being warned vengeance is not the correct path, things like that. She gets over it in this scene and never comes up again. It's never an issue again that she's going to get lost in her memories.
Well,
It's,
they do ground that team because of that incident, and only put them back on the field because they lost 2 mechs and 5 pilots.
yes.
Which, that whole fucking thing doesn't make any sense to me either. You see 2 level 4 kaiju. By the way, they rank these by 1 to 4. Actually 1 to 5, but you don't get a number 5 until the very fucking end of this movie. But 2 level 4s come out of the throat, basically, aka the rift in the space-time contingency dimension vortex thing. And to respond to that, they send out 3. They send out the Russian team, the Chinese, is it Chinese or the Japanese team?
The
Chinese team, and the Aussie team. And I don't even know why they sent the Aussie team when they don't even want that thing damaged. So that thing stands in the back, and the other 2 go up against this thing, and they're getting their ass handed to them, and yet the commander is still sitting in his office watching this go down, and he's like, "They'll figure it out." Oh shit! No.
They got this. I mean, clearly one level 4 is whooping their ass, but surely the second that we know is in the area won't get involved.
So I'm just like, why aren't you not sending him in now? Because you're going to lose this, and he knows it, because they're both getting their ass beat. He doesn't send them in until both of them go down.
Yeah.
He could have avoided all of that just by sending in Gypsy.
Most likely. But, they didn't want them out there because they almost... Gypsy does, to give him a little bit of credit, Gypsy, because Mako kind of goes overboard, almost does destroy the entire complex because,
yes, she does.
While she's lost in her dream, she's slowly activating the arm cannon, which could, blow up everything. And I can understand.
But it wouldn't have fired
because
she was. Ready. It wouldn't have fired because she didn't say the name before it.
Yeah, she didn't. Like, arm cannon to fire.
Plasma. It's the plasma cannon. But yeah, it's just things like that irritate me about this movie. The whole fight scene that you were talking about, where the guy brings the boat in, Gypsy brings the boat in. There's a part in that scene where his fist goes through a building and knocks one of those little pendulum things.
That was the one. That was the part where I was just like, "That. Why are we doing this?"
I was like, why do we have to see that? I mean, if they would have removed that, I would have been happier. Even though the boat's still there. But
I was like, what's the point of this?
There's nothing. Just like, look at our CGI. That's all that
like,
was.
Look how cool it is.
That's it.
We made a CGI fucking marble thing for only $2 million.
It doesn't. There's a lot of things that'll happen in this movie that really don't need to be there. I think they could have dropped 90% of the Mako tied to the commander backstory, not backstory, but confrontation. They could have dropped the very forced the Aussie I hate the American kid one, which just comes out of nowhere.
He's just an asshole to be an asshole. That's why again, it's so anime. They're like, we got the pretty boy asshole who.
Well, I knew there was going to be I knew there was going to be that kind of a character in this movie. Because there always is, you know.
There has to be some sort of human antagonist to get, you know, be like, darn you, Aussie kid.
By the way, I like the Aussie team by far the most out of all these guys. Um, but there's just a lot of things in this movie that just don't need to be there or could have be done differently to make it better. And that's
I would appreciate more fights. I would appreciate if another mech beyond Gypsy did anything in the movie.
mm-hmm.
Because the other mechs, you only see them so they can show their one gimmick off.
Well, yeah,
the Chinese team shows the little buzzsaw things off. We see
and the twisty leg thing.
We see Twister do just once. He shows at the very end of a fight it has like missile cannons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually know what the Russians mech did. I think
it did the punch the guy. That's it.
Yeah, I think it just had really strong punches.
That's what pissed me off. I'm looking at the not trailers for this movie, but the posters show off all the fucking Jaegers, and the only time we ever see, you know, the other Jaegers do anything are in either a flashback for less than 30 seconds, or in the second to final fight where they die off in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be kind of a big deal because these are the only 4 Jaegers left. The Jaeger
but we don't know anything about them. We don't learn anything. We don't stick with them, so their deaths are meaningless.
Like the Australian team, we know because we follow them throughout the movie. They're like kind of the secondary group, but like we never actually speak to the Russian team or the Chinese team. We don't meet them. We don't. They could all be Hitler for all we know. We know nothing about them, but the fact that they die.
Yeah,
and they look really over the top. At least the Russian team does.
The Russian team was awesome. They looked like they stepped right out of a '90s movie to me.
Yeah.
That big old fucking bleach blonde hair and that weird
hairstyle
they
looks
had.
Like fucking what's her name? Fucking Red Sonja chick.
Oh yeah. You're right.
I can't think of who she is. I can't think of her name right now.
I almost said Uma Thurman.
Bridget Nielsen?
Bridget Nielsen, yep.
Yes! Boosh! I don't know how I managed to get that. But anyway, the one chick looks like Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah, I mean, they should have spent a little bit more time on those guys before killing them off, you know, show them off some more, and at least get some of an attachment to them before they die. But there's nothing. You're just like, there they are, and they're dead.
It kind of just feels like, let's just make toys out of these.
Yeah.
Because I would have loved to have seen, because they mentioned, they're like, oh, the triplets have won, like, 9 straight fights in China using the Thundercloud formation.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get to see, like, I'm still really curious what the fuck the Thundercloud formation is supposed to do beyond...
Have buzzsaws come out of your hands.
Yeah, like, there's a point where, like, the one they're fighting uses its hands and grapples with it. I'm like, oh, okay. So the third hand's there to cut into the monster while it's doing it. Third hand just fucking sits there while he gets thrown all over the place. It's like, oh, I don't know what the fuck the Thundercloud formation is anymore.
I don't think I think they showed the setup for it, but they never actually show what it does.
Yeah, I'd love to see what it does because it's supposedly a big deal. And the Russian one is supposedly a Mark 1 unit.
Yeah, that thing's a beast. It's slow as fuck, but the thing's a tank.
Yeah, so I'd have loved to have seen what that does, but yeah, you don't get to see it.
Because that thing's basically a boxer. Mm-hmm. You know, that thing's just there to pummel you into submission, but yet it punches one guy, then gets his ass blown up.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I liked the fight scenes. I just thought they were few and far between. And the
action's great. I cannot say there are some really, like, there's a flying kaiju who picks one of the mechs up and is flying over the city, just dropping them into the tops of buildings as it flies across. Like, really cool shit like that. Stuff that you can tell Guillermo del Toro probably had a vision. He's like, I want these action scenes to be really cool looking.
But it looked a little funny missing its tail.
It's just it's good action for the most part. I can't think of a lot of times I was like, this is just fucking. This is awful because it's not shaky cam. It's clear. You're able to, you know, it's tough to see some things just because a lot of battles happen in the water at night. So the dark colors kind of don't lend themselves well. But.
I was talking to Tyler about this movie this morning, and I'm like, see, even this movie gets it right when it comes to protecting the people versus Superman.
They did
most of the fights in the fucking ocean.
In the ocean or in the harbor. Like, a fight does go into the city at one point, but it starts off when it first enters into Tokyo or Hong Kong.
Hmm.
They take the fight to the harbor, so it's still in the city, but not like metropolitan area.
Yeah.
You know, the city definitely has a lot less collateral damage than Superman, Man of Steel.
I actually do think this movie, less people died in this movie than Superman.
Probably. I feel like Hong Kong could much easier reconstruct itself than Metropolis is going to have to after Man of Steel.
I don't know. Lex Luthor's got a lot of money.
I just feel like it'll be easier to fix. Like, all you have to do is like, all right, fix that building over there, fix that one, buy that guy some new fucking office clicky clack wall thing. And,
No, because it wasn't damaged. It's perfectly
I
fine.
think they broke that building afterwards.
Did they? Oh yeah, they did because the kaiju pushed them through it.
I think so.
But it's funny is that when you see them being pushed through buildings and stuff like that, the buildings are empty though.
Yeah.
Because before every fight, there's a basically an air siren. An air raid siren that goes off that lets people go into these underground bunkers, which they established in another scene. Thank you, but it was with a character I didn't give one shit about.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I just want to bring up.
Sure.
Because it was very strange to me.
I got 2 points and then I think I'm done.
Alright. This will be my last one. I just need to point out, because this is honestly one of the weirdest, maybe one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. There is a kaiju they kill, and they're examining its body, and they realize, oh, this kaiju is pregnant, which I don't get, because they explained that kaijus were clones to begin with, so I don't know why you'd send in one that's pregnant, unless that was like a weapon of it, it's just poops out more of it as it's flying. But the weird thing is, because it's pregnant, the embryo basically comes out and tries to attack and strangles itself with its own umbilical cord. And I realize they're monsters, but it's still really uncomfortable to basically watch a stillbirth happening.
Yeah.
It was one of those scenes, it's like, I kind of get what you're going for, but this is really unsettling right now.
Wrong placement for that movie.
Yeah, I was like, couldn't just someone blow its head open with a tank? Why do I have to watch it literally strangle itself with its own umbilical cord?
Yeah.
So there, that's
you win some, you lose some with this movie. But, okay, we're going right to the ending for my two nitpicks here. Well, not nitpicks, questions. They established in this movie that the only way to go through the throat is with the corpse or the DNA of a kaiju. Mm-hmm. Because the throat recognizes what's going through it. Because they've attacked the throat before, and it just shoots whatever they put at it back out. It rejects it. It rejects it. So they go through the throat, holding on to the body of the Type 4 or Type 5 that comes out. Oh, by the way, speaking of that fight scene, I love when when the other one detonates itself. The Aussie's, the Striker, detonates himself, and it created that vacuum, or not vacuum, but a dome of actual oxygen underneath the water, and you see the fish fall down.
Yeah.
I got confused myself, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. I actually really like that. But moving on. As I said, they use the body to go through the throat, and they get down to the bottom, or on the other side of the throat in the alien planet. Right. And he ejects Mako's life pod, basically, because she's passed out or something like that during the fight.
Yes.
And she goes through the throat, comes back out, and then he detonates Gypsy as he ejects, and he goes out. How do they get out if they needed the DNA of a fucking kaiju?
I understood Mako, I think, because he lets her out basically as soon as they get through.
Uh-huh.
But what I did not get at all is how he makes it out, because that happens like 5 minutes after. I was like, how long is this fucking gate open for?
Yeah.
Like, you think
because the gate can't open without a kaiju in it.
Yeah.
There's no kaiju in it. Because they bring that body with them. They used that to get through it. How the fuck did they get out?
Yeah, that was one of those things I was just like, I don't really get how this works. Like, how long could the kaiju gate open for? Like, I also find it weird that they never tried this too. Like, the bigger reveal to me, because there's two reveals they find by melding with a kaiju brain. This is one of them, is that you need to be able to go, it needs to recognize a kaiju DNA for the gate to open.
Correct. Yeah.
The second is that, what happens before this is they find out that the kaiju are essentially not, they're sending in basically soldiers. These aren't predators, these aren't monsters, these are things designed to destroy major cities, because this civilization on this world is coming to our world because it's taken it over, and we've basically terraformed our world enough that they can take it over, and then they can use it as a sustainable society. That to me was a bigger like twist than you have to have a kaiju to go through this gate. I was like, well, fuck, did you guys ever try that? Did you ever just strap a bunch of dynamite to a fucking kaiju corpse and push it in the water? Did you ever try it to see if that works? Like, did you never think, like, maybe it doesn't open for us both ways? Like,
oh, that's... Go ahead.
It just seems strange to me that they never conceived of that.
One thing, this isn't the other nitpick thing that I had, but, they cancel the Jaeger, program to build a wall.
Yeah, that was weird.
Why? And you know what's funny? It's like when we actually see the kaiju attack the wall, it's not even as big as them.
No,
it goes up to their waist. They can fucking, like, you know, just vault over it and they're through.
Yeah, no, it's not like Attack on Titan where, like, these are walls billions of times taller than the giant, and just one happens to show up that's bigger. Just one shows up, like a regular Category 3, and he's just like, that's adorable, bro.
Yeah, he just headbutts through it.
Yeah, they're just like, because we know that the mechs are several, like, megatons worth of steel. Like, they're huge.
They're roughly,
but these walls are basically just walls of steel. That's it. It's just
steel and
presumably
stone
filled with concrete.
Yes. They didn't have any. Didn't look like they had any defense mechanisms on them. It's just a wall. I don't understand why they did all that shit. But getting back, okay, to my other point that I don't understand. I hated the ending of this movie. The very, very ending of this movie. They both come up. She wakes up. She ejects from her, or she leaves her life pod. She swims over to Riley's, whatever you want to call him. Pops open his hood and the top of his life pod, and she feels for a pulse. She doesn't feel one, and basically she coddles him. Everybody else is sad in the briefing room, and he basically says, Raleigh ends up saying, you're squeezing me too tight. And I'm like, wasn't he just dead? Did the power of love bring him back?
That's super schmaltzy, that you're either going to like it, or you're just like, well, that was super weird.
Yeah.
Because it does, like,
they point
out that the sensors on the thing might be broken, but then it, like, and you were like, oh, maybe the sensors are just broken.
But she felt for a pulse.
But she went for a pulse. So, if that's the scenario, then she's just an idiot who can't find a pulse on a person.
Well, I don't know if they tried to do it as a callback to the one scene where they're like, let's check for a pulse, and they just blow up the fucking corpse.
An awesome line. Where it's like, it may be dead, but let's check for a pulse. Boom, boom, boom. No pulse.
I groaned at that too, but I didn't think it was nearly as bad. I didn't think it was nearly as stupid as the other things.
That line was fucking glorious. It was so cool.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie where I was like, oh, okay. I'd see it again, but I wouldn't see it again in theaters. Well, actually, no, I'm not gonna say that, because I am going to see this again in the theater, not because I love this movie, but because I want to make sure my opinions are what they are.
That you're true to yourself.
I want to make sure that I'm 100% sure on this movie, because, 24 hours, going a whole day without sleep, will affect your mood going into a movie that's 2 hours and 11 minutes long.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know if did this movie have I thought this movie was very talky. Did it feel that way for you?
As the first act is where I was kind of like on the movie, and I was really negative on it, and that's where I think a big bulk of the actionless talking comes in. It's
Hmm.
kind of once the second act starts, it is a lot of talking. There's not a great ratio of talking to action, but I can understand why. It's
Uh,
cheaper to shoot somebody talking and create a narrative that way than to just do everything with a bunch of CGI fights that are ultimately going to be 100% computer animated.
by the that first kaiju attack, or the one that they show against San Francisco, I believe it was.
Hmm.
Um, that CG looked terrible. Like where they show him ripping the bridge in half, and you see the cars on the bridge fall down. That looked terrible. But the rest of the movie looked great. Just that one scene looked terrible to me.
Uh,
Just the stuff with the bridge. I didn't think the kaiju looked bad at all. I just thought the animation of the cars and the bridge itself looked bad.
yeah, it's possible they may have been like, all right, the kaiju looks great. Oh shit, other stuff. Fuck it, who cares?
Yeah. It just looked too fake for me.
Uh,
It's fucking CGI. It's gonna be fake. I know, but still.
like I want it to be less fake.
Yes. They're giant monsters fighting cities. Okay. I think the only kaiju that I actually hated was the one that looked like a crab, because the kaiju's were had great designs to them, to where they look. Some of them look like things that are actually from Earth. You know, some look like a hammerhead shark. Some look like
One looked like a gorilla.
yeah, some one looked like a crab. But the way that they look, um, they don't look too much like the thing that they are supposed to look like. But the
Mhm.
crab just looked like a giant crab. It looked
Giant ugly
exactly like a
crab.
giant crab.
Attack the weak point.
So that one threw me off. I didn't like that one as much. But every other one, I was 100% behind. God, I love the fights in this movie.
There you go.
But yeah,
Anything else left to say?
uh, probably so, but they're not coming up right now. I like the fight scenes. I hated everything else. Well, not hate. That's too strong of a feeling for this movie. I was just on
You
everything
were
else.
displeased by everything else.
Yeah, I felt like as I said, I think I said before, I felt like this movie blueballed me a lot.
I definitely don't understand the immense internet hype on this movie. Um,
Well, the people who've seen it love this movie.
yeah, there are
I
people who
could see why.
absolutely just love it.
I could see why. I'm not,
Yeah.
talking down on anybody or something like that. I could see why. It just wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, it is definitely one where I'm just like, I like this. I just don't understand. Like, I think it's very similar. I have not seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but it feels like a similar mentality of everyone in the internet just like, this is the most amazing movie ever. Because, I mean, this is a movie that appeals to nerds.
Hmm.
The cheesiness is, the Sentai, Kaiju, anime. It's all these things about Japanese culture that a lot of nerds really dig. And it has kind of the same stuff you'd also be able to like from like an 80s action movie and shit like that in there. So I can understand why people like it on the internet. It's just it is really high. Like I understand people being like, I'm shocked this is making less money than Grown Ups too. But I also do feel like people need to curb their enthusiasm a little bit because this is a movie that spent a lot of money to appeal to a pretty small audience, to be fair.
Well, this doesn't just go to that. I mean, this goes to like this will go to the alien invasion crowd, the uh, world-ending crowd. I think it
The
reaches more.
apocalypse is cancelled.
I hated that line. I still hate that line. That speech was terrible too. I was hoping it was gonna be bigger than what it was, but no. It just kind of fell flat on me. But overall, yeah. If you like giant monster movies, this might be a good movie for you. If you can deal with all the other subplots that don't necessarily need to be there. Um, but if you're still on the fence about this movie, just rent it. It'll be a good solid rent. Chris, you gave it a B plus.
Yeah, I sincerely enjoyed the movie. I
Hmm.
absolutely had fun with it. you kind of, I do think it's something that if you're not in the mood for it, I think that is going to hurt it because so much is carried on the emotion of the movie. It's not a smart movie. It has no
By
point
far
to
is it not a smart
say.
movie.
Yeah, it's a very dumb movie. There's no point to be made in the movie whatsoever. There's no great symbolism or anything like that. It's just action and stuff that's silly, and you're kind of caught up in the emotion of like, this is so over the top. This is such a wacky movie.
There's no moral in let's do this together.
No, not really, because they don't do it together. Everyone dies,
Well, I think that's
and he doesn't do it together. He sends her away before she has any choice in the matter. He does it by himself. He does it entirely by himself.
No,
In fact,
hold on.
the movie basically ends the exact same way Independence Day does, where they send the ship down there, and the big alien's looking at it, and it realizes what's happening.
Exactly, I didn't make that connection.
It does like a little oh shit face, and it.
The alien even looked like it.
Yeah, and
A little bit.
Somehow, fucking Raleigh's little fucking lifeboat outruns a nuclear explosion. I don't understand how that happened, but whatever.
Well, it had I think it was 5 seconds to get away from there. Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, it doesn't have much of a lead on everything else there, but he makes it out.
Yeah, there was something that just came up that I wanted to say, but now I just completely lost it now that I realize that this movie's basically got the same ending as Independence Day. Fuck you, Chris. But I hope you guys enjoyed the Exposition dump for today, for this week. Next week we are doing R.I.P.D.
Don't act so fucking depressed. It's gonna be fun.
I hate you.
It's gonna be fun.
Why do you hate me?
It's gonna be fun.
I doubt it. But thanks everybody. We'll see you next week for our R.I.P.D.
It's gonna be fun.
Good night.